My name was Amir. I was a teacher, a seeker of knowledge in one of the most esteemed halls of academia at Cambridge. I wore my faith as a badge of honor, upholding the rich traditions of Islam while shaping young minds with my disciplined approach. But beneath the facade of respect and integrity lay a desolate void, a gnawing emptiness that whispered secrets I dared not confront. Each prayer became a ritual, yet I felt a disquiet growing, a haunting cry for something beyond the confines of my belief. One fateful day, during a lecture that would become etched in memory, my world shattered. The weight of oppression bore down upon me, and in a single flash I collapsed, slipping into a realm where shadows danced and silence screamed. There, in that oppressive void of darkness, a light pierced through, revealing a figure that would transform my existence forever. It was Jesus. In that moment, I was not met with judgment, but a profound understanding of the chains that had bound me. It was a divine confrontation, a spiritual tribunal that unveiled how traditions can cloak the authentic essence of freedom. I realized the truth. I had been navigating a life steeped in spiritual confinement while questioning the very essence of my existence. Emerging from that experience, my heart burned with a message I felt compelled to share. But I soon faced a stark reality. Colleagues branded me a heretic. Family members turned away in fear. The whispers of doubt became a chorus of rejection, leaving me trapped in a wilderness of soul-searching and introspection. Yet, in the depths of my struggle, I began quietly exploring texts that had once been concealed from my sight, discovering a warmth in the gospel that I never anticipated. This is not merely my story. It is a call to awaken, a reminder that many of us, shackled by societal expectations and familial ties, yearn to break free. Jesus is reaching out, demolishing walls built by fear and tradition. So, as we delve into this journey together, I invite you to listen closely. Before we dive deeper, I want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching this right now? What time is it where you are? Share in the comments below so we can connect. And if you're someone who loves Jesus and craves more revelations like this, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. This journey is just beginning, and the light is about to shine even brighter. In the heart of a conservative school in Cambridge, I found myself caught between intellectual rigor and an aching desire for spiritual exploration. I am Dr. Samir, a professor well respected in my field, known for my analytical mind and commitment to the truths of science and academia. However, beneath the accolades and standing ovations lay a silent yearning that I could no longer ignore, a longing for something deeper, something beyond the cold facts of the world around me. In an environment that esteemed tradition and conformity, questioning the spiritual dimensions of existence often felt like stepping into a forbidden realm. As I stood before my students, delivering a lecture on the complexities of human behavior, I was acutely aware of the weight of expectation. The classroom was filled with young minds eager to dissect knowledge, yet I sensed an undercurrent of discontent. Perhaps they too were grappling with the same emptiness I felt. My heart raced with the realization that while we explored the depths of human thought, we remained shackled by an unexamined spiritual void. Each day, as I explained theories and concepts, a part of me longed to speak of faith and spirituality, the hidden truths that I instinctively knew existed beyond the academic facade. One fateful afternoon, everything changed. I finished a lecture and experienced a profound wave of dizziness, the room spinning as I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a surreal landscape, a vast desert blanketed in darkness and silence. Fear gripped me as I struggled to comprehend my surroundings. Then, amidst the desolation, a brilliant light pierced through the shadows. As I moved toward it, I recognized the figure standing there. Jesus, radiant and full of love. Amir. He called me by name, and in that singular moment, every fear and doubt faded away. As Jesus began to speak, profound revelations unfurled before my eyes. He revealed the spiritual war that extended far beyond the physical realm I had known, exposing the hidden agendas that the elite used to manipulate societies. I was shown how deception permeates the very fabric of our existence, fueling division and misunderstanding among people worldwide. It was as if I was granted a vision of the interconnectedness of all things, how political conflicts, economic disparities, and social injustices contribute to an ongoing struggle for truth and light. The realization came to me that I was not just an observer of knowledge, I was part of a larger narrative that demanded my active participation. Every revelation came with a sense of urgency. I understood that my intellectual pursuits, while important, would never be complete without addressing the spiritual dimension of life. I saw the faces of countless individuals caught in cycles of despair, manipulated by forces they could not comprehend. In this divine presence, a fire ignited within me, compelling me to advocate for awakening. The truths I had learned through my education now felt incomplete without the context of love, hope, and spiritual liberation that Jesus represented. I realized my mission was to help others escape the shackles of deception and seek the truth that could illuminate their paths. When I returned to consciousness in the classroom, the familiar surroundings felt simultaneously mundane and electric. I was filled with a profound sense of purpose, yet burdened by the fear of what lay ahead. Would my colleagues and students embrace the awakening I had experienced, or would my revelations render me an outcast in a world that valued only empirical evidence? The thought of sharing my journey with the very people I had spent years educating filled me with trepidation. I could not ignore the calling to confront the spiritual war that raged around us, urging my heart to join the fight for truth and to stand against the hidden agendas of the elite. It was a battle beyond my understanding, but I knew I had to face it head-on, ready to share the love and light I had found in Jesus. As a 32-year-old professor at Cambridge, I had built a life around intellectual rigor and deep respect for my faith, yet an unsettling emptiness began to gnaw at my heart. I'm Amir, respected in my academic circles for my teachings in Islamic studies, but beneath the surface of my professional facade, I grappled with an internal conflict that felt increasingly profound. I found myself oscillating between my religious obligations and a yearning for something more, an authentic spiritual purpose that often felt just out of reach. In the midst of my lectures and discussions, a quiet voice urged me to dig deeper, to confront the questions that lay hidden in the shadows of my heart. It wasn't until one ordinary day during a lecture on the complexities of faith that everything shifted. As I spoke on the importance of understanding different interpretations of Scripture, I was suddenly engulfed by an overwhelming sense of dizziness, my surroundings blurring into an indistinct haze. In what felt like an instant, I found myself transported to a vast, desolate landscape, a dark desert stretching endlessly before me. Panic surged through me, yet as I stood there, I felt an inexplicable calm wash over my spirit. It was in that moment of isolation that I saw a radiant light in the distance, and as I drew closer, the figure of Jesus emerged, bathed in divine brilliance. Amir. He called my name, and the sound resonated deeply within me, awakening buried emotions. I felt an embrace of love that shattered the walls I had built around my heart. In that sacred moment, revelations began to unfold, each one more piercing than the last. Jesus shared profound truths about the spiritual war raging around us, exposing how the elite wield power through hidden agendas that keep communities divided. The veils of deception that had clouded my understanding were lifted, allowing me to see how political and religious institutions often obscure the essence of love and unity that spirituality is meant to convey. I was shown the impact of these deceptions, how they nurtured conflict and fostered division within and among societies. I watched as the consequences of manipulation played out on a grand scale, leading to suffering and isolation far too common in our world. The urgency of the message struck me like lightning. These hidden truths needed to be shared. I understood that my journey was not just a personal exploration. It was a calling to bear witness to the awakening of others, to encourage them to seek the truth amidst the chaos. I felt a fire ignite within me, compelling me to advocate for love and understanding, even when it meant confronting the very foundations I had built my life upon. When I returned to reality, the comfort of that encounter lingered in my heart, though it soon faced the harsh realities of my life. The academic atmosphere of Cambridge, while rich in knowledge, often felt rigid and unforgiving. The fear of rejection haunted me as I considered sharing my experiences with colleagues and students. Would they understand the deep spiritual truths I had encountered, or would they dismiss me as an outcast? The very traditions that once felt like home now seemed like a cage, and the thought of losing the respect of my community filled me with dread. Yet the urgency to speak out, to share the revelations I had been given, weighed heavily on my spirit. I knew I had to confront the challenges ahead, for the call from Jesus echoed in my heart, urging me to step into the light and help others find their own paths toward awakening. As I immersed myself in my daily prayers, an unsettling void began to settle within me, an emptiness that felt all-consuming. I am Amir, a professor at Cambridge, deeply respected yet increasingly aware of a growing disconnection from my faith. Surrounded by the weight of tradition, I felt as though I was reciting prayers without conviction, merely going through the motions. Each Fajr left me wrestling with a gnawing doubt, questioning whether my devotion to my Islamic beliefs was masking deeper truths that I was yet to uncover. The silent struggle within me mounted. I felt unfulfilled, unable to connect with both the teachings I espoused and my students who looked up to me. Then came the nightmarish visions that began invading my sleep. I would wake in cold sweats, heart racing, feeling lost in a dark expanse where shadows loomed, taunting me with uncertainty. In one vivid dream, I found myself in the presence of Jesus, illuminated in radiant light, but even then the feeling of disconnection persisted. It was unsettling to encounter Christ during my most vulnerable moments while grappling with my identity as an imam. I was terrified of these dreams failing to be simple figments of my imagination, fearing instead they were revelations inviting me to confront truths about my spiritual journey. These visions ignited an internal conflict, amplifying my sense of disconnection from my students and the traditions I represented. I could sense their yearning for knowledge, but how could I teach about faith when I was so entangled in my own doubts? The distance I felt from my role grew palpable. I feared that even sharing these experiences might lead to deeper misunderstandings. It was exhausting navigating through the expectations of my community and the unrelenting scrutiny for every action taken. The cultural pressure to conform weighed heavily, as if my emerging questions marked me a pariah in the very world I sought to enlighten. In the midst of this chaos, the question of what truth really meant began to blossom within me. Seeing Jesus in my dreams was not just a coincidence. The encounters were laden with meaning, urging me to seek and explore the essence of revelation. I felt the urgency to delve into the faculties of both my heart and mind, connecting with those who had undergone their own awakenings. Conversations began swirling around me, stories of others who experienced the manipulations perpetrated by the elite, the hidden agendas designed to keep us divided. Each shared testimony became a thread in the larger tapestry of consciousness awakening, and the collective struggle to overcome spiritual deception flourished. As I ventured deeper into my exploration, I recognized the spiritual war not just within me, but within society. I bore witness to how fear and deception are used as weaponry, tactics that continue to sow division among communities. I began to understand that the truths I was yearning for were advice to others to recognize the unseen forces orchestrating our lives. With every passing day, my resolve to speak out grew stronger, despite the lingering fears of familial rejection and societal backlash. I felt called to share the message imparted to me by Jesus, one of love and connection that could bridge the divisions created by misunderstanding. Often I found myself pleading in prayer, not just for guidance, but for the courage to step into the light of my awakening, ready to confront the challenges of the truth I now believed in. In the midst of a lecture on the intricate balance of faith and reason, everything shifted in an instant. I am Amir, a professor at Cambridge, respected for my scholarly rigor. Yet as I stood before my students, the weight of the world pressed down on me, and I felt an unusual wave of dizziness wash over me. As I struggled to maintain focus, darkness enveloped my vision, and I collapsed to the floor, my surroundings fading into nothingness. It was during that moment of unconsciousness that I was thrust into a profound and transformative near-death experience. Upon entering this state, I found myself in a desolate desert, an expanse of darkness that seemed infinite. The air was thick, heavy with a sense of foreboding, and I could feel an unsettling emptiness all around me. Confusion clouded my mind as I wandered through the shadows, grappling with an intense sense of despair. Just when I thought I could take no more, a radiant light appeared on the horizon, illuminating the darkness like a beacon of hope. Drawn to it, I moved closer, and soon found myself in the presence of Jesus, radiant and alive with love. His light enveloped me, and I felt a warmth I had never known. Amir, he spoke, and the sound of my name brought me solace. In that moment, all of my doubts and fears began to melt away, replaced by an overwhelming peace. Jesus began to reveal the truths hidden beneath the layers of life I thought I understood. He spoke of the spiritual war that rages not just within individuals, but across the globe. I saw images flash before my eyes. Societies caught in cycles of deception, manipulated by the elite, who wield power to maintain control and sow division among the masses. Their hidden agendas had created barriers, keeping people from experiencing the freedom and love that spirit is meant to embody. As Jesus shared these revelations, I understood the role of deception in fueling conflict and suffering. I became acutely aware of the societal fractures caused by fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of those who are different, fear of losing the familiar. Each revelation so profound, so urgent, tethered me to a mission far greater than my own. I did not simply want to absorb these truths for myself. I felt that I had been chosen to spread this awakening, to pull back the curtains of ignorance and help others see the loving nature of God that had been obscured by man-made divisions. When I returned to consciousness, everything seemed both familiar and foreign. The lecture hall was full of students, eyes wide with concern, yet all I could think about were the truths revealed in that desert, the urgency of the spiritual war one had witnessed, and the need to act. I knew I could no longer conform to the expectations placed upon me without addressing the deeper calling that now resonated within my soul. I felt propelled towards a mission of truth, one that would require courage and determination to confront the hidden agendas at play in our society. Would I have the strength to walk this new path, one that could ultimately lead to liberation for myself and others like me? The call to awaken was clear, and I was ready to embrace the risks ahead. After awakening from that life-altering experience, a powerful urge to share my transformative encounter with Jesus surged within me. I am Amir, a professor at Cambridge, and for years, I had devoted my life to nurturing young minds, imparting knowledge rooted in Islamic teachings. But now, with the weight of the truths I had seen, I felt compelled to connect with others on a deeper level. I longed to share the revelations that had been unveiled to me, the urgent call to awaken from the spiritual war that pervaded our lives. Yet, as I began to navigate this new calling, I quickly encountered resistance, not just from the outside world, but from those I held most dear. Stepping into this role of witness wasn't as straightforward as I had hoped. When I confided in my colleagues about my encounter, the response was one of skepticism and dismissal. They viewed my experience as a deviation, an aberration that threatened the foundations of our shared academic pursuit. I could see the disbelief in their eyes, and it stung deeply. The fear of being isolated intensified. It felt like every word I spoke about Jesus drew me further into a chasm of rejection. Yet the truths I had received reverberated in my soul, demanding to be shared despite the backlash. Returning home became an equally daunting task. The weight of my family's expectations loomed large, along with the fear of their reaction to the changes I had undergone. The traditions I had upheld were now a source of conflict within my heart. The guilt of potentially abandoning my family for this new understanding haunted me as I wrestled with my faith. Secretly exploring Christian texts offered me a sense of solace and clarity, but I felt like I was walking a tightrope, afraid to fall into the depths of judgment from those I loved. My prayers at night turned into cries for guidance, but I felt an aching loneliness amidst my search for truth. Every encounter I had, every connection I sought to make, carried the weight of my fears. I explored online communities, finding others grappling with their faith in similar ways. Their stories of awakening mirrored my own, and I felt a kinship in our shared struggles against the hidden agendas we had come to recognize. We talked of how the elite manipulate beliefs, using fear as a weapon to control and divide. Each conversation filled me with hope, solidifying my resolve to confront the deception that overshadowed our understanding of spirituality. As the urgency to share my truths grew, I couldn't ignore the fear that simmered beneath the surface. The thought of confronting not only my own beliefs, but also those of my family weighed heavily on my heart. Still, the revelation that I was part of something much greater called me to action. My mission was not just about me. It was about awakening others, helping them navigate their own journeys through the spiritual war that rages around us. I was determined to step into the light of my awakening, ready to face the risks of sharing the love and truth of Jesus, knowing that my path forward would be fraught with both challenges and profound rewards. Driven by a relentless quest for truth, I found myself drawn into a clandestine world. I am Amir, a professor at Cambridge, known for my commitment to Islamic teachings, yet a growing sense of emptiness compelled me to explore what lay beyond the teachings I had embraced for so long. I began to watch videos about Jesus and his teachings in the quiet of my home, feeling the exhilaration of discovery, but also the heavy burden of secrecy. Each time I clicked on those videos, a mix of anticipation and fear surged through me. What if someone found out? What if my community, my family, saw me questioning the very faith I was meant to uphold? As I delved deeper into the Bible, I encountered a plethora of insights that challenged not only my understanding of spirituality, but also the very structure of the society I lived in. I was captivated by the notion that the truth of Jesus cut through the layers of deception that often overshadow our lives. In those pages, I found a sense of liberation, a promise of awakening that resonated with my innermost desires. Yet, as these revelations unfolded, so did the anxiety of possibly losing my family heritage, the lineage that had shaped my identity as a Muslim. I was walking a line that felt increasingly precarious, balancing the intoxicating allure of truth with the stark reality of what was at stake. In those moments of exploration, I discovered a community of individuals facing their own tumultuous journeys, a clandestine network of people who had experienced their awakenings. Sharing our stories of transformation became a lifeline for me. Each testimony echoed my own struggles, reinforcing the notion that I was not alone in this spiritual war. These individuals had also felt the weight of the hidden agendas imposed by the elite, which sought to manipulate our beliefs and sow division among communities. Their courage inspired me to confront my own fears and to embrace the truth that Jesus offered, a truth that transcends cultural and religious boundaries. As I engaged with this community, I felt a growing sense of peace and belonging, yet the specter of my family's potential rejection loomed large. Would they understand? Would they see my journey as a betrayal? Or would they recognize the sincerity behind the revelations I had experienced? My nights were often filled with prayers for guidance, pleading for clarity as I grappled with the weight of my decision to embrace this new path. Each encounter with Jesus in my dreams reignited my resolve, leaving me with an electric sense of purpose, but also deeply aware of the risk involved in such a significant change in my life. The urgency to share what I had learned became a driving force in my life. I started to speak out more openly about the spiritual awakening within me, holding discussions with those willing to listen. I called attention to the deceptions that color our understanding of spirituality, and advocated for a shift toward truth and love. I recognized that the spiritual war was not just my personal battle, it was an invitation for others to join in the pursuit of awakening. Every conversation served as a reminder of the importance of this mission. I was determined to carry Jesus' message of hope to those still wandering in darkness, even if it meant facing rejection from the very people who had once been the pillars of my life. The journey ahead was uncertain, but the light of truth guided my steps, compelling me to forge a new path steeped in hope and profound awakening. Realizing that my revelation served a greater purpose, I felt an undeniable calling to bear witness to the truths I had uncovered. I am Amir, a professor at Cambridge, and my journey into the depths of my faith had transformed me in ways I could never have imagined. After my encounter with Jesus during that fateful lecture, I understood that I had a responsibility not just to my own awakening, but to the countless others yearning for spiritual freedom. The journey ahead promised to be fraught with challenges, Yet the weight of my newfound mission propelled me to embrace the risks of breaking my silence. As I began sharing my experience, I felt the tension of uncertainty coil around my heart. The community I had belonged to for years was not particularly forgiving of those who strayed from expected norms. I could sense the skepticism in the eyes of my colleagues and the hushed conversations behind my back. Yet every time I spoke about the revelations I had received, I noticed sparks of curiosity among some students, others who might also be grappling with their own questions. I began to understand that my voice could serve as a beacon for those lost in the complexity of spiritual deception. My commitment to sharing Jesus' message was not merely a personal endeavor. It was a part of an awakening movement that was much larger than myself. The spiritual war one had witnessed was not only personal, it extended into the very fabric of society. In discussing the hidden agendas of the elite, I began to uncover how manipulation permeated our world, influencing everything from politics to economic structures. I shared insights on how these agendas breed division, keeping people caught in cycles of fear and misunderstanding. I wanted my students to recognize the importance of discernment and critical thinking, challenging them to look beyond the surface of what they had been taught. My goal was to encourage them to seek their own truth, to awaken their spirits to the possibility of greater realities waiting to be embraced. I also sought to connect with those who had similarly grappled with faith and the oppressive nature of rigid doctrine. Networking with individuals who had experienced their own spiritual awakenings became vital for my journey. Together we shared stories of transformation, reflecting on how the manipulation of truth created barriers in our lives and communities. Each conversation felt like a step toward dismantling the misconceptions that kept us divided. It reinforced the notion that we were called to stand against the tide of deception and to advocate for authentic connections that break down walls constructed by fear. As I embraced my role as a witness, I couldn't shake the anxiety of potential backlash from my family. Years of adherence to Islamic traditions weighed heavily on my heart, and I longed for their understanding. The thought of being branded a heretic chilled me, yet the truth of my experience was undeniable. I found strength in the knowledge that Jesus had revealed not only my inner struggles but also the broader challenges facing humanity. I was determined to pave a new path, one driven by love and understanding, no matter the risks involved. The awakening that had begun within me demanded that I confront both my fears and the spiritual war we all needed to fight. It was time to step forward fully, heart open, ready to share the journey with those willing to listen. Symbolically bidding farewell to my former life felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I am Amir, a professor at Cambridge who had dedicated years to academia and the Islamic faith. Yet the revelations I experienced during my encounter with Jesus transformed everything. Choosing to renounce my old name, a name that carried the weight of expectation and tradition, was my first step into this new future. This new identity represented not just a change in title, but an evolution of my spirituality. I felt compelled to step boldly into a mission of evangelism, driven by the desire to help others seek deeper truths beyond the confines of past beliefs. Every day became an opportunity to engage with those around me, to share the awakening I had experienced. I found myself drawn to students yearning for knowledge, but also aching for connection to something greater than themselves. They were seeking answers in the midst of a world riddled with hidden agendas and societal deception. As I began sharing my experiences, I could see the flickers of recognition in their eyes, reflections of their own struggles with faith, identity, and the complexities of life. My testimony resonated with them. They too felt lost in the currents of a spiritual war that very few acknowledged. In those discussions, the truth I had uncovered began to unravel layers of misunderstanding and fear. I spoke about how the elite manipulate narratives to maintain control, weaving a web of deception that keeps communities divided. Each revelation I shared felt like a spark igniting a fire of curiosity in my listeners. I reminded them that the love and freedom offered by Jesus provides a path out of the darkness. These conversations shifted from theoretical discussions about faith to urgent calls for action. We examined the implications of these hidden agendas on every aspect of society, politics, economy, and relationships, and the need for a collective awakening became apparent. Yet, despite the growing connection I felt with my students, the fear of losing my family lingered. I worried that stepping fully into this new mission might lead to rejection, even condemnation. My family had always expected me to uphold our shared beliefs, and as I diverged from the path they had laid out for me, the possibility of estrangement haunted me. I turned to prayer, seeking clarity and strength to face the challenges ahead while clinging to hope. Jesus' presence in my life felt like armor, a reminder that I was part of a larger story, a spiritual awakening that transcended my individual struggles. As I ventured deeper into my mission, I found motivation in the realization that every step I took was an act of defiance against the forces of deception. I became even more determined to shine light on the truth and to empower others. The journey ahead was filled with uncertainty, but with every interaction I felt the weight of my purpose pressing me forward. I was committed to confronting the spiritual war that played out in everyday life and helping those searching for the essence of love, truth, and freedom. My heart raced at the thought that my voice could reach those trapped in the darkness, guiding them toward their own awakenings and sharing the message that Jesus had revealed to me. Years have passed since I experienced that profound moment with Jesus during my lecture, and today I find myself deeply rooted within a vibrant faith community. I am Amir, still a professor at Cambridge, but now my life has taken a turn I could have never anticipated. The spiritual awakening I underwent has empowered me to impact many lives. I've dedicated myself to sharing my testimony, using it as a catalyst for others seeking spiritual liberation. As I engage with those around me, I realize that every discussion is an opportunity to nurture hope and foster understanding in a world often filled with confusion and deception. In this community, I've connected with individuals who have also traversed their paths of awakening. Each person carries their own stories of struggle and search for truth, and together we form a tapestry of shared experience and insight. We speak freely about the spiritual war that permeates our society, discussing how the elite manipulate beliefs and create a hidden agenda that keeps many shackled in fear. In our conversations, the sense of urgency escalates. We feel compelled to expose the deceptions that keep people divided, urging them to seek the love and truth that Jesus embodies. Despite the joy I find in this community, I still carry the ache of longing for reconciliation with my family. Moving forward in my journey has come with personal cost. There are moments when I find myself reflecting on the deep bonds once shared with my loved ones, bonds now strained by my decision to embrace a different spiritual path. The fear of rejection looms large, but the hope for understanding keeps me anchored. I often pray for my family to see the truth of my transformation and the depth of love that now guides my life. I wish for them to recognize that the essence of faith transcends cultural divides, and Jesus' message is universal. Through all the challenges, I've come to understand that my mission extends far beyond my own liberation. It's about opening doors for others, allowing them to discover their own paths to truth. The revelation I received during my near-death experience serves as a beacon not just for me, but for all those still searching in the darkness. Each interaction I have is an act of defiance against the hidden agendas that seek to keep us divided. I believe that by sharing our stories, we can inspire others to awaken to the truth, encouraging them to break free from the chains of fear and deception. As I stand at the intersection of my past and present, I feel a profound sense of purpose driving me forward. The spiritual war within me continues, and I am committed to being a voice for awakening. I want to inspire others to seek their truths, even if it means confronting the difficult realities lying behind the familiar facades of tradition. The journey isn't easy, but the light of understanding and love shines brighter through each shared experience. I've learned that while the path may be fraught with challenges, we can overcome anything together, standing united in the pursuit of spiritual freedom. In my role as a professor at Cambridge, I once believed that I had a clear understanding of my purpose and faith. I am Amir, a man who dedicated his life to the pursuit of knowledge and the teachings of Islam. My days were filled with lectures, research, and the satisfaction of shaping young minds. Yet beneath the weight of this facade lay an unsettling emptiness, one that began to grow as I struggled with the limits of my understanding. The societal constructs I operated within seemed more and more like a cage, limiting not only my intellect but my soul. I felt a deep yearning for something outside the confines of my academic and religious duties. The moment of change came unexpectedly during a lecture on the intricacies of belief systems. I had been detailing the principles of Islamic philosophy when an overwhelming wave of dizziness overcame me. I collapsed, and in that instant, I was transported to a desolate desert, enveloped in darkness. Panic threatened to consume me, yet there was an odd calm in the chaos, as if I was meant to be in that space. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst through the haze, and from that light emerged Jesus, radiant, loving, and inviting. "Amir," he said, and immediately I felt a profound sense of belonging alongside the warmth of his love. In our encounter, Jesus began to reveal layers of truth that had previously been obscured by the teachings I had adhered to. He spoke of the spiritual war that raged not just within individuals, but in the very fabric of society. As he unveiled the hidden agendas orchestrated by the elite, I saw how they perpetuated deception to manipulate people and maintain control. I witnessed the inequalities and divisions rooted in societal structures, where fear was wielded like a weapon to keep us apart. The realization struck me like lightning. The truths that I yearned to share were being overshadowed by a system that valued compliance over spiritual awakening. Every revelation was a call to action, igniting a fire within me to confront the chains of ignorance that bind so many. I understood then that my life's true mission was not just as a professor, but as a witness to the awakening of others. I began to recognize the urgency of sharing this message, the need to expose the deceptions that distort the view of faith and spirituality. Yet, as the clarity of my purpose sharpened, so did the anxiety about the risks it would entail. I wrestled with the fear of rejection, of losing the respect of my colleagues and family, and yet my heart would not let me remain silent. Determined to share the truth I had received, I sought connections with others who felt similarly trapped within the bounds of their traditions. These conversations became a lifeline, offering comfort and understanding as we explored the implications of the spiritual war around us. Each person brought their own stories of struggle, awakening, and discovery, creating a tapestry of shared experiences. The knowledge that I was not alone in this journey invigorated me. Together, We could challenge the systems that sought to control us, illuminating paths to spiritual freedom for ourselves and those who still languished in the shadows of doubt. As I reflect on the journey I've undergone since that fateful moment with Jesus, I feel an overwhelming sense of purpose. My name is Amir, and I stand before you not just as a professor at Cambridge, but as a messenger of awakening. This isn't merely my story. It's a call to each of you who feel the weight of societal expectations and the chains of tradition. The darkness I encountered in that desolate desert is a familiar realm for many, choking the essence of our spiritual freedom, but the light of truth is here, urging us to break free. In my encounters since waking from that transformative experience, I've discovered a profound realization. We are all interconnected in this spiritual war. The forces that seek to divide us, the elite, the hidden agendas, rely on the silence of those aware of the deception. Every day, I see individuals yearning for something beyond the confines of their inherited beliefs, just as I once did. If you're feeling lost, I want you to understand that your search for truth is valid, and it's a journey worth undertaking. So I ask you, have you ever felt the stirrings of something greater within your soul? A yearning to awaken from the fog of misunderstanding? Your experiences are important, and I want to hear your voice. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you encountered your own moments of spiritual awakening or conflict? Your reflections could be the guiding light for someone else on this journey, illuminating pathways that connect us all. Before you go, I urge you to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. We're embarking on a journey of revelation together, and what lies ahead is a deep dive into the mysteries of faith and understanding, a continuation of our quest for truth. Your engagement not only supports our mission, but helps create a community where awakening is celebrated. Thank you for joining me on this profound journey. I'm Amir, and I want you to remember, the quest for truth is not a solitary one. As we stand together, awash in the light of hope, we can confront the darkness, revealing love and unity to a world in desperate need. Until next time, stay aware, stay courageous, and keep seeking.